What's up, K-pop fans? This is your boy King Kaz and Petey Rave. This is a little bit different than what you're probably used to. This is our Hallyujuku Talks segment. Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it?
All right, I got this. Petey Rave, middle child, Florida, Miami. Ding dong.
You got to get the cousin part in there, the class. Yeah. So every once in a while, something, a series, an album, or something comes out that we feel we want to give a little bit more depth to, a little bit more time to, and talk about. And I don't think there has been anything culturally to come out of Korea that more people want to talk about right now than the movie Parasite. Parasite is a movie that I think kind of caught the internet by storm, and as well as the movie world by storm. And it was one of these movies where it caught so many people's attention, but no one knew anything about it.
Yeah.
And having a movie like that where everyone wants to know something about. Everybody wants to see it. Everybody's interested in it. It has all this attention. But when you ask people, well, what's it about? Everyone was like, I don't know. Everyone's talking about it and I want to see it. So it's directed by Bong Joon-Ho, Bong Joon-Ho. And it is a movie about class, essentially.
Yeah.
It is a thriller about kind of class discrepancy and it's a movie that is very weirdly Korean, but universal.
Yeah.
As a whole.
Yeah. It uses very interestingly, very specifically Korean like tropes. So it very much uses very interesting, very Korean tropes, but to tell a very universal story. I think if we were to like look at it in a certain way, it almost like paints like a little bit of a class picture of like the aspirational feeling of class, but also it uses like internationality as a aspect of that, because like the whole premise is him being an English tutor to a family who's like the patriarch lived overseas, and they have a house in Seoul where you usually have apartments, and whereas the Kim family have they live in a very Korean neighborhood in a very Korean apartment, in a very and in a very Korean half basement apartment. So they use that, and then they also use like height really well, because they use the half basement of like them underneath.
So before we get too deep, let me give people the synopsis.
Yeah.
If for some reason you're listening to this and haven't seen Parasite, it is a movie directed by Bong Joon-Ho, starring Kang Woo-sung, and it is a story about, essentially it starts with the character Kai, or Q, and his kind of his poor family, and who you see kind of are a unit, but what happens is you can tell that they will take kind of they're poor, but they kind of are trying to do whatever they can to survive. They take odd jobs, and they're kind of always on that line of not being able to like pay their bills or something like that. And they're essentially living off the scraps of whatever they can find.
Yeah.
I.e. being a parasite. Yeah.
The whole beginning of the scene is them like shit, the Wi-Fi's down. We can't. They put the neighbor upstairs put a password on the Wi-Fi. It's like, wait, I got it. You have to climb into this one corner. It's like to be able to get to the Wi-Fi so they can use Cat Talk. Like.
And then from there, one of Q's friends offers him kind of this cushy job in being an English tutor for a rich family. It's easy pay. It's an easy job. And there are ulterior motives on all sides. It is one for this family of wealth to constantly use their wealth to have an advantage. So by hiring somebody to teach their kid, so their kid has an advantage. Q's friend is looking at it because he is interested in the daughter of this family, and he wants to put a block on it while he goes off and takes a trip. So he figures putting a friend. Yeah, putting a friend there that he thinks he can trust will keep that safe, which took me my second viewing to figure that whole part out. Like,
oh yeah,
like,
I figured that part out, but we'll get into more of like the details. But that old scene is also cool because that scene, especially if you go back and watch it again, you realize that that's the first moment in the movie, and we'll get in, when we get to deep into the plots, where you start to see those microaggressions by people above on below. Because it's not just that he wants to put a friend; it's because it's like his the whole thing he goes for is like, I don't want one of these guys to be leering over her. With you, she's safe. I think with you, I don't have to worry about. Like he thinks of him as like a pushover, but
and then to Q, he sees this as at some point he turns around and sees this as an opportunity to make bank in a sense and leech off of these people who if he feels like he can get the easy in on them, he can be a parasite and he can suck blood from them in a sense. And then in that sense, it is like I said, it is a movie that is very uniquely Korean. It is in Korean. It is subtitled. It takes place in Korea. But the overall thing of the story finds itself, very universal. And then from there, it takes a twist. And that's the part I'll save. If you have not seen it, I say this now because I unlike most podcasts, I don't have the ability to talk about a movie spoiler free and then talk about spoilers. So this is a full spoiler podcast. If you have not gone and seen this movie, please do yourself the justice. Go see the movie. There are links down below to the official Parasite website that you can go and see where it is showing. It is starting to show in a lot more places. Yeah. So you will most likely have an opportunity to go somewhere and see this movie.
Yeah, I saw it at one of the local AMCs. So like it's getting out there.
Yeah. With that being said, for those who have seen this movie, let's kind of talk about Q's family dynamic, which I found very, very interesting, because they seem like very genuine people at first.
They're down to earth, kind of salt of the earth people. They're good. Yeah.
And then as the movie goes along, you kind of come to this point that even I had to struggle with, because usually I like these kind of characters, but I came to this point where I had to struggle, where I was like, they're the bad guy. It's like,
it's like they have at first you kind of fall in love with their kind of, they're a tight knit group just because they have to be. They poke fun at each other and razz each other, but like good family does. They have a roguish charm to them, which I think plays to how they're able to be such, let's just say, skilled con men and women. And they entrance you, and then you slowly but surely realize it's like, oh yeah, they're a family of scumbags. It's like
Yeah.
and it's funny because like you think about the Q gets in there, wonderfully played by Cho Shik, who I love in this, and I love that he kind of can play a character who can seem like the pushover really well. He did that really well on a show I really enjoyed, Hogu's Love, back in the day with Yui of After School. And he does this well here. With this character, it's like the tangled web we weave when we aim to deceive. He had this set up perfectly, but it's like, okay, well, let's see how we can take this. And then he gets his sister in because he notices the son has some art. He has a penchant for drawing stuff, and he noticed that the mom takes his art takes the kid's art way too seriously. So he's like, well, I know an art therapist, and it's his sister, and she, her name is Jessica, because they play on the Parks family, their kind of desire to put on this like image of being worldly. So they play with like, oh, this person, they must be with an English name. They have the English tutor, and she makes sure to throw in English every once in a while, like but with a heavy accent, and like that turns into getting her in. To which, like, the first thing she does the first day is plants a seed to be able to like replace the driver with their dad, and then then it becomes the 3-person scheme to trick the mom into thinking the long standing housekeeper has tuberculosis, so that they kick her out of the house. It involves like hot sauce in a napkin, like
there's a scene early on where you see the genius of their being able to con as a unit. Like you see bits and pieces of it, right? Because like the kids are trying to find something they can do using Kakao Talk, and their mom's like, oh, I'm waiting for a message from this pizza place. So you see that they all have their own little ends, right? They have their feelers out on little money making schemes. But it's when it comes to the pizza place thing, and the girl who's the CEO of the pizza place, or the owner of the pizza shop, that they're putting these boxes together for. They're building all these pizza boxes for this pizza place. And when she comes and some of the pizza boxes are messed up, and she's like, well, I'm going to have to dock you guys 10% of what I was going to pay you because most of the pizza boxes are messed up. And initially you see it as like, the family is like, oh, fuck, well, that's went out of the door. But then you see them kind of go to work, right? Where the mom plays the aggressor in the situation. And then the son kind of plays like this kind of like toting, Q plays this like toting like guy, and he's like, oh no, I'm so sorry, oh please, like and then as soon as they see an in, they attack, right? So the girl's feeling herself, and like, I this is my company, and what I say goes, and he's like, oh well, the bad publicity you would get after you had to fire that weird guy. And she's like, wait, how did you know about that? And then his sister comes in, and she's like, well, this, that, and the other, like feeding into it. And I love that scene because what happens is there's two of the pizza people there. There's the girl who owns the company, and the guy in the background who's like, because he's like, hey, I know you need another person at your shop, and maybe you could hire me, kind of thing. And Q's trying to get this in, and you see her kind of mulling it over, and the guy's like, yeah, we need a person. I don't know, maybe this guy could work. But then you see like them close in on her and close her off from this guy as they try to like work her. And it's such a great scene because it's just that still as they all kind of come in and surround her and just close her into the frame. And it's just so great. It's so like well done in its directing and its acting and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that I think is what made this movie so internationally like renowned. Is it's very well acted. It's very, very well directed. It's the cinematography is amazing. The way that a scene pulls you in with not even just its framing, but the color palettes on certain scenes, like how you were saying when they are trying to get the longstanding maid out to bring the mom in on the con, and they do. You have this scene where the little boy is standing in front of the window, and there's this like very orange, warm glow. Because like all the stuff is changing around him, and the world is becoming different for that house, and then it just straight cuts to the next scene of the maid being shunned out of the house, and everything is blue. Yeah. And it's raining and it's grim, and it's just these that those scenes back to back. It's just so well done.
Yeah, there's so much done really well with spacing and angles as well. Like every time they play with that angle to the stairs to the basement, where they did so many different parts, it just is so captivating. Just where you see only, it's like, no, crazy to think about. You only see some of the person that is like standing on the stairs. You just see this like figure and just this shape. It's hard to really get a sense of there being stairs. You just see this black.
You just see a
frame.
Person ascend.
Yeah,
like they're on an elevator, and sometimes.
But it almost gives it like a supernatural element to it, which plays into some of the things of like what the kid imagines later on, and it brings you in, it clues you in onto like there's more to be discovered, like just on that, and keep in mind this spot. This space, there's more to be discovered here, and there is like, and it does that so well with the spacing and the framing, and like the set design was done so well, and because this was all like Bong Joon-ho at this point in his career with like following Okja and Snowpiercer and I think, what was the other movie that was like the big one? In The Host, like he can spend some money, so he can make some sets. And like these places were designed so well, but like in a way that makes sense, and the architecture is so cool, and like it evokes the personality of the people involved so well. And then through like, and then we go into like the writing and the character work. A lot of what is done throughout the movie is these specific moments, and I would say the microaggressions, like playing with these microaggressions of, again, we're talking about class warfare and I think the biggest thing is all these little moments of the rich person making some kind of like, even if they feel it's harmless, some kind of comment either directly at or indirectly about somebody in like, in the Kim family or lower, that you can see like, okay, like the and how it all adds up and how it all builds up into even past like the big twist, and how it builds up to the big moment at the end. Like I said, the the friend kind of like basically saying to the dude that, yo, I know you're not gonna, you're harmless. You're like, you might as well be a eunuch. Like basically to the, if you kind of use these classic senses, to the friend, Kyu was basically a eunuch to keep watch of his queen, his future queen. Like, which is, like that's where you kind of saw it, and he basically intimated that. So that was like that little microaggression, and all the little other moments, and like when they kept the dad, I think Mr. Park kept commenting on the smell, like the smell, old guy smell. It's like this old guy smell. It's like it works so well on that front. Let me see. Yeah, Dongik Pong Park. It worked well, and it kind of like added to those different elements, and it builds up so well. It's like, and then like, but like, so the big twist, which is I everything was so building up that I just didn't know where it was gonna go, and you get this even. So walking into this movie, you think it's going to be one thing, and then it becomes something else. Like that's a big thing, and that's what it tells you. Even watching it halfway through, even while watching it, you're still thinking it's going to be one thing. And like because I'm telling you, you watch those trailers, and like everybody, you keep hearing people saying that you think it's going to be one thing, and it ends up being another. I know what you're thinking when you're watching those trailers. Like I know what it's going to be. I know. It's like, you don't.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Like, I classified it as a thriller, and I still think it is a thriller.
It's a dark comedic thriller, I think.
Yeah. But the funny thing about it is I was watching it with some friends of ours, a one Curly of Drunk Kids Gaming and Panda. And we get to about the midpoint of that movie, and Jessica is talking to Mrs. Park about her son. And
I thought you were talking about Jessica Payne. That's different Jessica.
No, she's talking to her about her son and his art and what it means, and trying to get to this moment that they discovered. And they which I also think is very beautifully shot, how it just pans around the house as it goes into this kid's memory, and they talk about him seeing the ghost, right? And you have that beautifully done scene of this man coming up the stairs, and obviously like edited to make him look so overexposed, and like his eyes are so big and like open, and you only see like you said, because people kind of ascend from those stairwells, and you only see bits of them at a time, and where that frame stops, it's like you just have those eyes staring at you, and then from that point on, even though the whole time I'm like, it's kind of a thriller, they're like, this is a fucking ghost movie and we're out.
No.
I'm like, it's not a ghost movie. And they're like, no, it's a ghost movie. This movie is about ghosts in this house. This house is haunted, and we're out. And I was like, it's not a goddamn ghost movie.
So yeah,
but it was just that one scene locked into their brains that like, oh shit, this is a ghost movie. This whole setup is now a ghost movie. And I'm like, like that, it was so interesting to me that it was able to do that to them in one scene. One scene, it was able to do that to them.
Yeah, and what I'll say is like, you can take that, and then the other thing I think a lot of people are going to assume, it's like, oh, it's going to be about them trying to leech off of the family, and that rich family is going to turn it back around on them and be like murderers or something. It's not that. It's almost like everything. And and again, you should have already watched this movie. If you haven't watched it, I don't know what you're doing here. this is the paradox of like spoiler cast. It's for a limited audience. It's this is by design. The parks are almost like they're just victims caught in the crossfire of all this, like because ultimately like, they technically no, this is not a ghost movie, but it kind of is, because the kind of house is haunted in a sense, or occupied in a sense, or possessed, and it kind of gets revealed later on, because you get the housekeeper coming back, and kind of like and you can it's visually captivating and interesting. Just her in that desperate moment trying to get back into the house, pleading to get back into the house. You can see her face. She's obviously been beaten up. And she's simultaneously desperate, panicking, and trying to put on a very cordial, nice face. Like, oh, please, like very like trying to supplicate, trying to like be so ingratiating still, because that's how she knows she could get back in the house. And you get the big reveal that there's this whole like bunker underneath that she's been keeping her husband
basement below the basement.
Yeah. And like even in that moment, it sets up it sets up things to follow along, where like she has trouble trying to open the thing, and you see her, and that's a great visual. You see her like hands on the bookcase that's supposed to move, feet on the other wall, just like hovering there, and then like without thinking, I think it's the mom takes off the thing that was blocking the bookcase, and it flies off, and she falls.
Like, so they're already panicking because they've let this lady back into the house, and they are already kind of celebrating their win over these people by like just eating all the food, drinking all their liquor in their house,
and getting drunk, and like earlier they were drinking soju, now they're like drinking like whiskey and like these wine, and like drinking the fruit of their labors, and it's like never mind how they're gonna try to answer how that happened when the family comes back, because the whole family went to like a whole picnic thing.
Yeah, so they're doing that. So she goes down there because she says that she forgot something, and her family is getting even more curious as to what this lady wants from the house. So she is the only one who should be there at that moment. So she kind of follows her down, and when she comes down, because they thought she was just gonna go grab something and come right back up, and she hasn't come back up. So they're like, all right, what is happening? Like, go find out. And she comes down those stairs, and even then, like even that juxtaposition of the upstairs and then the downstairs, right, is so totally drastically different, right? The upstairs is very modern, is very like well laid out in its design, and it's because that the Park family never go down there, right? They never go down to that basement
because it was blocked off.
Well, no. I just mean the basement in general, right?
Yeah.
Because the main only ever goes down there, gets stuff for them, and brings it back up. So that basement just looks almost like a standard Korean home, right? It has an old kind of china cabinet, which is that china cabinet that moves, and then there's stuff packed into the corners that the Park family only sends someone down there to get and then come back with, right? They don't ever really deal with anything down there. Like the one time when the mother goes down, when the woman is getting the drink, right, is to tell her to do something so that she can spy for her in the house. But she doesn't go down there. She doesn't look at anything. She isn't aware of anything that's down there. She's just like, oh, I want you to do this now. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
And so it's that kind of thing. And like, I just love kind of that difference, because once you cross that path of darkness, it turns into a different place, right?
Yeah.
Like in that initial stairwell. So when the Kim mother comes down and she sees this woman like in between the wall, pushing on this bookcase, like in the air, like not like at ground level. She's at the top of this
Yeah.
cabinet, like trying to push it away from the wall. That makes her panic, and she's like, "What the fuck is happening? What is this woman doing?" That almost even gives you this like weirdness of like what kind of a creature is she? How did she get up there? What is she trying to do? And then she notices that the plate is under the wall. So she slides it out, and then the wall instantly moves. And this lady hits the ground, and she's like, initially like, "Oh shit!" Like, but she instantly gets up and darts down that second set of stairs.
And you can see like the desperation,
then,
more signs of like that desperation. It's like,
right, which now brings the whole Kim family into this. That they're like, wait, there's another level to this, like, and then that's weirdly where that turn that you think was going to happen from the Park family comes, is the maid and her husband, once they realize all these people are con artists and trying to gouge this family for their money, they turn the tables on them, right? And now there are these people who were even below these, like it's just that weird cascade, like you said, of this classism.
Yeah,
and now they feel like they're at the top, and it's crazy.
And then they turn around and like the panic. Like those moments afterwards where they're trying to like, okay, they're trying to deal with the fact that they've had their tables turned on them, and they're kind of held hostage. They, if I remember correctly, they kind of like turn the tables back on them in a sense, and kind of like have these like moments like, okay, now we've kind of like wrapped things up in a way. They feel like okay, let's try to like calmly deal with this. Then they get the call that the family's coming back, because obviously it's been at this point during this whole scene it's been raining like crazy. It's like there's been this like insane torrential rain that it's almost like even that the fact that it's like the short-sightedness of themselves is not realizing, wait, it's rain. It's obviously not raining just on this house. How are they not thinking about this, how this is going to affect this camping trip this family is thinking of doing? Like, like how far outside of the city do they think these people are going that it's not being affected by this intense storm, that they don't even think that maybe the family's going to get rained out and probably going to have to come back. Like they don't think that far. They just think they're gone. Let's party. They also don't think about, well, what are they going to do after they come back with all the liquor that they drank, and like it's like these brilliant minds, but that think in these short thoughts. But they get the call that they're coming back. It's like something's call, the awakening, and they have to make the ramdon, the ramen udon like mix thing, and realize how to make it, and then simultaneously dealing with like these two people that that are a possible wrench in their plans, while also trying to panic make this dish while they're getting everything ready while people are hiding, and that is I think, and we'll get to this, and then we'll get to the next scene, and then we'll kind of, I guess, there's probably more than we should probably spend, because we're not going to spend the entire movie's length talking about it. But when like, and you get these just kind of human moments and of panic, of just trying to like, oh, I need to get things ready for them when they get home, while also simultaneously having these big moments of that you would like how mind so the lady, the housekeeper, how she comes up and how she mindlessly kicks her down the stairs, and you see her flying down the stairs and concuss herself into the wall and underneath, and then you move on to the next moment in the scene. Yeah, she does that and walks off.
That moment is so shocking. Like it hits you that you're like, she just murdered a woman,
and you can't help but laugh. And it's so shocking and out there. The crowd where I was in, they couldn't help but laugh because it's just this uncomfortable laughter of like this moment that comes out of nowhere. It was like, okay, like she just kicked her down the stairs, like.
Yeah, me and the boys lingered because we were like, yo, she low-key just savage murdered someone. No fucks given. Because
she sparred the shit out of her.
Fall.
She knows how to stare. Like, that was a moment, and then it's like, oh. It's almost like that is the big turn. It's like, oh, like, oh,
yeah. That is a big turn. So that's a big turn, as well as like it just kind of continues. Like the pages just kind of continue to turn from there, and I think very geniusly one of the things that I came away with is the pacing in this movie is done really well. Like even all the heist, right? As they go, they become more complex, and even in their complex like design, they're played out so well, right? To like you learn more and more about how these people go about the cons, right? Like so. The son getting in starts with him and his sister making a fake diploma for him. And for the first time, you finally see him very well dressed and very well put together. And then you see him in the house and he goes through that first pacing. And like you said, when the mother starts to talk about the son and he sees how like, into the kids that she is and how willing to do whatever she can to give her kids a leg up she is, he's like, cool, I can grasp at that. He fails initially, right? Because they're looking at the painting that her son did, and he's like, oh yeah, that monkey is just amazing. And she's like, no, it's a self-portrait. And there's just this quiet moment of failure.
But he's like, Yakshi, like, oh, of course.
Yeah,
like, of course, this is self-portrait. All right, so you kind of have to look at it, Like, yeah.
And then he kind of goes into depth, and he's like, yes, just astounding, amazing, like riveting, even. It gives me shock, because he knows she's not actually listening. You know what I mean? Like he knows she's not actually paying real attention to the words that he's saying. She just is like, yes, of course it should be praised, right? Like, because it's my son's painting. And then when he talks about her, about like, oh well, has he been taught? Like, who's taught him to do such a amazing work? And she's like, oh well, his art tutors never last. And he's like, oh. I think I know someone that is an art tutor. Like that flow of that con is so good. And then the sister coming in, like the sister is just a genius level con artist. Like the fact that she got that wild child. Like I also love that they show you that this kid is just wild. Like his first interaction is him coming down the stairs shooting arrows at everyone and running around the house. Well, no, even before that, they set the seed of you seeing the rubber arrows in different places around the house as the maid is pulling them off of walls and off of the ground. And then you see what caused that, which is this little boy who's super into American Indians.
Yeah.
uh, and you see that he has, you know, all this energy for a kid and stuff like that, and like the mother doesn't want to deal with it, so the maid tries to, and then you have that scene where the mother and the maid come up from the basement, and the sister is sitting there with him, and she gets him to get up and bow and walk out of the room calmly, like while she's like turning the chair and turning her back to them, like it's so well done.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's and I think it's their how well they play off, and how, like, especially playing into, like, always trying to, like, play the exclusivity. It's like, oh, I've got this person, I don't know, they might be super busy, they might not be able to do it, you know, they've got all they it's like like, oh, of course they're busy, they must be, you know, like, I can get them, I can lock them up, you know.
yeah,
And they keep, you know, plays it up, and but back to, like, how it all falls apart. They and, like, all right, you know, they have that night, they kick a good lady down the stairs, they lock up that, you know, that room or whatever. They feel like,
can we even talk about like the maid's husband, right, is just a man, just beaten to like the nth degree by life, right? Just
yeah,
like, just life has beaten this man into submission, right?
yeah,
All he knows is his servitude to someone else,
yeah,
right? Like that's all he is, and in his current situation, he can no longer do that, right? So he finds a way to even still do that with the lights that you see a few times as
yeah,
the father walks in. These lights come on above him, and you realize that the parks don't question that, right? The parks don't question why those lights only come on when the father walks in.
yeah, yeah. It's like, like, they think, oh, there's sensors, and I was like, what sensors? Where are the sensors? Like, and like these moments, and how that builds up.
Did my internet drop?
I don't know. I can hear you.
Oh.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, little technical difficulties, but we are still here. We're still talking about the movie Parasite. So all right, let's kind of get into the final bits of this movie. This really good movie, and then give our thoughts on it. So as we get to the tail end of this movie, and it starts to turn into almost a murder mystery at this point.
Yeah.
So
there's no murder. There's no mystery. We know who the murderers are. It's them people.
It starts to delve into like this crumbling world, right? Like this world that these people set up is starting to instantly crumble as they have to scramble and hide the secret of this sub basement to these people's house, to struggle to put their house back together, and then even essentially get out of the house.
Yeah.
Becomes like this thing so that they won't get caught. And through so much drama, they do that. They get out of the house, but then they're now just out in the rain, and have to get home. And it's very late, in the evening, and you know, there's nothing that they have no car. There's no transit that is running at whatever, like, disgusting hour of the night that it is, and they just have to walk home in the rain.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just sets up like those moments where it's like they get home and like the whole neighborhood gets flooded. 'Cause like
Yeah, like you go from one thing and you feel like you've escaped it, even though you feel like you're at a low, and then just something else even worse is like all the things that are actually genuinely you are being lost to this water. And it's not even just water. It's like it's sewage water, which is even worse, because it's not like, you can just keep those things. It's gone. It is gone.
It's doo-doo water.
It's doo-doo water.
You're getting washed up in doo-doo water. Like the one toilet like is bubbling up, and like you get this visual of the daughter Ki-jung like sitting on the toilet while it's closed, just casually like I think on her phone, while like literal doo-doo water is just spouting up and spurting it up, which is a great visual. And then they have to go to a shelter, and like it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, and it's just trying to hold on to your life, right? It's like they're scrounging to grab whatever they can think to grab. And while the rich family, the Parks, are just in their home, chilling, sleeping soundly, and then decide that since they couldn't do the camping trip for their son, to have this big birthday party and invite everyone, and they are, they're calling these people and they're like, hey, I need you to come drive me around, and hey, we're having a party and I want you to be there to help show off his great art and everything he's been doing. And these people are at their lowest and they have to go back into this con essentially because it's at that point a necessity, right? Like they need that money to put their lives back together. So it's like it becomes heart-wrenching at that point, right? Because I think if you're really watching this movie and you're paying attention, you go through the ups and downs of liking this family, hating this family, and then feeling bad for this family.
Yeah.
Right? Like because they're all very charismatic characters, right? Like they pull you in, and then you watch the thing that they do in worming their way into these people's home and lives, and you feel a little bit disgusted by it, I think. And it's very well done, but I think there comes a moment where after that turn happens, depending on how you feel about it, like if you did like them from the beginning, you feel bad for them in this moment that they have to like go through this and all the shit that the specifically has been through up into this moment, and constantly being talked down to, and constantly just not even being looked at as a person, but just as an object, right? Like, and coming to the realization that people think that way, and people would think that way about him or his kids or his wife. You know what I mean? Like these people that he loves and that he cares for and that he's trying to provide for, and it starts to become heart-wrenching at the end.
And then like so it's like that it's this like pattern of like, all right, we put down the situation, now a new problem, and then they keep bubbling up. We put down the situation, this keeps bubbling up. Like we're back home, we got out of there, we're just dealing with this issue comes up. We got past that. This other thing, like now we have to go back. They get all these calls while they're in the like shelter with all the rest of their neighborhood trying to, taking shelter from the storm, and they have to go back. And the thing that they had locked in the housekeeper and her husband, just kind of like put them in the back of their mind, not even thinking about them, and then they're putting together this party, all these moments, and then that comes up again because, of course, like the housekeeper she she was alive, but she has a very bad concussion, and an untreated concussion is a bad thing, and she dies. So
Yeah.
the husband
She dies with her husband just watching her while he's tied up, and did nothing about it. Like,
yeah, he didn't do anything about it, and like, so it all comes to a head. There's like, and the details of like there's like these moments of like they're setting up this whole thing for the kid, and it's like, oh, this whole big surprise, and then in the middle of that, it is these moments that just catch you off guard. Again, the brutality of it. The guy escapes, gets out, and there was this and we're gonna link the you can watch the opening scene, but the opening scene involves Kyu's friend gifting Kyu and the family this scholar stone that is just like this weird gift, but it's like this image, and it's supposed to give them wealth, and it almost like is like a symbolic thing. Kyu brings it with the intent of finishing off the people downstairs, and then like I'm trying to remember. There's a little thing, but in the end, the guy had it in his hand. He brains Kyu with it, and you see this image of Kyu lying on the ground, and he's bleeding out. And it's like,
yeah.
Okay. Like, and it just catches you off guard with him. Again, another one of those like, oh shit.
It does, because what happens is in that scene is he's going down there to try to, like, in his head become a man, right? Because he wants to now marry into this family because he's fallen for the daughter. Yeah. And he likes her, and he wants to kind of legitimize this terrible thing that they've done to these people, right?
He was even gonna have an actor playing, like, but actors play his mom and dad instead of the mom and dad, because he has to keep up appearances.
Yeah. And so he goes down there with the intent of killing these people that know their secret. But he still has that passiveness to him, and he's not sure about himself, and then he trips down the stairs, and this dude just comes at him. Like, this dude comes at him, and he tries to run and escape, and as he's doing that, he gets caught, and the dude, like, catches him with this, like, rope almost and pulls him to the ground. And you have this moment where, even though there's all that blood, you're like, oh, he might be okay. And the dude picks up the stone, and it's just this great wide shot, and he just smashes it on his head and walks away. And it's just like, oh, okay, fuck. Like,
that dude dead.
Yeah. And then it just escalates.
Well, it just sets off. It sets it all off. He gets out. He goes after his next target. And there's just moment after moment. You got to watch it to just see the details, because eventually it involves, coming out with a knife. He grabs a knife. He's going after somebody. I don't know if he goes after the daughter, but he goes after somebody and ends up stabbing the daughter. Like,
well, I think he comes out and he sees. I think he sees the daughter and he's running at her, but everyone just sees him with a knife, and kind of initially is like what happens, and he hits somebody else, and then he stabs the daughter, and then goes for the mom, and the mom is like fending him off. And while all that is happening, everyone else is scrambling and running away and all this stuff. And then Mr. Park is yelling at who he thinks is just his driver, like, hey, like, whatever, fuck that. My family out of here. My family is important.
Yeah, because so the kid has another, like, seizure out of panic. Yeah. This is triggering, because this is the ghost that he saw was this guy. Yeah. As we revealed. So the kid's having a seizure, And like he's imploring the driver to send to get the to get get his son to the hospital, and he's like, we need to get my son to the hospital, get my son to the hospital, and like not even really ever mentioning anything about his daughter, whom who was just stabbed. Like and like the somebody is like holding like a pressure on the wound and things like that, and like this whole moment, and we're probably, I don't know if we're remembering it exactly because I think it's been a few days, and it's a wild movie, and like there are many memorable moments, but human memory is flawed. But like it's like this moment, there's moments of like I think you fend off the one, they fend off the guy. Like they stab him with the I think the poker,
the sausage cue. She had the sausage cue on her hand.
Yeah, and then that whole thing, and in that moment he's just watching this, and like because obviously he wants to go after the daughter.
And then what happened was, so they stabbed that guy, and he's still trying to like hold the wound on his daughter, and his wife is like kind of getting up, and now she realizes what happened, but Mr. Park is still like like, hey, I got to get my family out of here because my family is important, and he's like and when he realizes the guy is like trying to save the girl, he's like, oh, fine, just give me the keys or whatever. And that's when he had thrown the keys at him, but it was under the dude. So he moves the dude's body to get the keys, but he had that he like retches at the smell of this man.
And it's again
because he's lowly and poor.
And that triggers triggers the dad to like, fuck you. And he goes after it and he stabs him. And and I don't remember it was like with the hatchet or with just the knife, but
no, it was with the knife that the dude had. He just picks it up.
I think it was with the hatchet, wasn't it? Because they had the axe for the Indian thing.
But it wasn't that. It was the knife. He picks the knife up out of the dude and just stabs him. And then just
runs away.
And then then it just slows down, and then there's that moment where he's like looking at his wife and his daughter. And then the greatest moment to me was like the daughter of the Park family has Q on her back. Like carrying him out. Like this tiny girl has this dude just on her back, piggyback style, just like getting him out of there. And I'm just like, wait, what?
What you'll do for love.
Right. What you have to realize, right? That tiny girl, in all that commotion, went down there, saw him, picked him up, carried him up the stairs, and then down the stairs to the outside, and then away.
It's a great moment. They all run away, and it's like this dealing with the aftermath of it all, and that's what is the post script of the movie. Like we get moments of unfortunately Ki Jung passes away, and the dad is never seen, and it pays off a lot, and I would say we'll leave a lot of that payoff, which I think it's better. The setup is better experience first with the payoff, so I'll leave you all to all that stuff at the end. Again, but I mean, you should have seen it, but there's no reason to kind of get into it.
It's hard to really, really explain because it's a very well acted pacing thing at the end.
But I mean, it just kind of all plays.
It's a big twist that is the father then ends up having to live in that basement where those people were.
And them hoping, and it's back at it, because they get off of probation. He's in hiding. Somehow they get off of probation, and then they're back at it. Back at it with their old life, back in the semi basement. On to the next one, and it's like it's just
and then Q figuring out where his father is, and seeing the Morse code that his father was sending with the lights. And making that promise to like not even just find a way to get him out, right? Which is like which you would think the easy thing would be, right? Is to find a way to just get him out. But he's like, I'm gonna pull off the biggest con and get so much money and buy the house that you can just walk out. And it is almost this hope that is hopeless. Right, like it's so weird, dude. It's so
it's hopeless, and it all pays out. Like that's that sign of hope that is fleeting and not real. It really pays off with like the fact that they're in that semi basement and they see the window, but they're really underground. It's like, and it all pays off. And I think that's the big thing of this movie as we kind of wrap things up is the idea of that divide is so far. It seems so close, but that's so far where like you can see it, you can taint it, you can taste it, you can know that it's there, and that world is out there, but you can't get there. You can't attain it. You can't get it. Like and the unhappiness of both being that rich family and pining for that rich life, that unhappiness and the class divide. And I think that's what does well with this whole movie. As we wrap things up, as we get into overall looking back, what's your takeaway? What are your final thoughts on the movie?
Like I said, I think it's amazingly paced and so well thought out and designed, and I just love things like this. I love things that from its beginning to its end are constantly giving you signs about what it is and what it might be, and is allowing you to have thoughts of your own without like ham fisting you like plot and stuff like that. Because it's a movie that kind of just allows you to think. It just allows you to like be sucked into this moment of these people's lives and then think about like, oh man, if I was in that situation, what would I do here? What would I do there? But you're never prepared for the next twist. You know what I mean? Like you're never really prepared for the next thing that is coming at you. And I think because of that, even having already watched this movie 2 times, I want to watch it again and again. I want to watch it more just because I don't know. I just want to see it if I can feel those. Yeah, I want to see if I can feel those moments happen and figure out what I would do. And like, it's just, I'm never going to, right? And it's just going to be a movie that I love because of that. I'm going to constantly have this feeling of wanting to figure out if I could figure out ways around these questions that this movie poses to me. And I love that, and it makes for such a good movie to me. And I think it's something that if you're into just movies and good acting and good pacing, even if you don't know that you're into those things, you should definitely check this movie out.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a really well made movie, and like we talked about earlier, it's distinctly Korean, for sure. But it has a universal message, and it has a crossover appeal message. In like it's in the sense of like the haves and the have-nots. I can definitely attest to that. Living in literally the capital city of haves and have-nots, Miami, Florida. It it is it is a relatable theme. It is a theme that carries over, and the movie is paced well, written so well, acted so well, and like it's shocking, it's surprising, it's funny, it is endearing. The characters are like interesting and charming and terrible and like and so many different ways. It is so well made. I love. It's been crazy kind of seeing the crossover appeal of things, like because like something like this getting out to people that don't know Korean things is fascinating, because like in little ways, like how much crossover appeal this has, and how much like how in the mainstream this is. Like in the Choshik and Bong Joon-Ho did a video for Vanity Fair where they break down the opening scene that I described. Where
it's a Vanity Fair thing where they usually have directors come and do talk about a certain scene or the opening scene in their movie,
and draw on it and stuff like that. And one of the things that they were doing, and it's really cool, is you got to go in there. I think if they had done it completed in Korean, they probably could have gone more into detail. But it was still nice, and it was cool because they actually both are really well fluent and pretty fluent in Korean in English, and it's really cool. I was surprised. But like one of the moments was like it was like him going, see, those funny looking green bottles, those are a drink in Korea we call soju. Like, yeah, and I'm thinking like, yeah, it's soju. They're like, oh, that's who they're talking to with this video. People who might not know what the fuck soju is. Oh, that's how mainstream this movie has gotten.
I think you even hear someone in the background go like, yeah.
Yeah.
Pay attention in that YouTube video. So he's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's soju. Yo. And then there was another video they did. There was an interview they did with IMDb. This guy in IMDb, and it was really cool. But it was interesting. He kept addressing each person, like he kept like asking questions of each, like it was Director Bong, Choshik, and Song Kang-ho in there, and it was interesting because he would go to each person and he would do the thing where he would say name, question, and he would do it in a form like, and you can tell by the cadence where he said he would give the first name, like I would say, oh, Kaz, such and such question, or you would say, oh, Petey, such and such question, but he kept saying Song and Choi, and I was like, that's their surname, that's their last name. But then I realized, oh, he doesn't know that. He doesn't know Korean names work like that. He's just like, that's how it's those little things that I realized make mainstream. Even things like the fact if you watch the subtitles, I don't know if they were true for you, but they were true for me when I went to the theater. When they were talking about Kakao Talk, they were talking katok. They were saying katok, and I could hear them say katok, but in the subtitles said WhatsApp.
Oh yeah, I think it did say WhatsApp. Yeah,
yeah. I'm like, and you and I hear katok, and we know what it means. Kakao Talk, katok.
Yeah,
but obviously, if they put Kakao Talk, that's like, I get it. It's not a wrong thing because I get it, because it's a meaningless detail. Really, it's just that's the chat app. It's like saying, oh, like Nike. It's just the chat app. It's what a human would say in Korean when they're talking about chatting on your phone. I open Katok. It's not a important detail. It's not you don't need to know that they use Kakao Talk to chat to each other. It's just background detail. So it's not important for it to be accurate. So you make it background detail, but to the audience that understands it, you say WhatsApp, because it's just, oh, they're using the thing to talk to each other. It's like, I don't know. It was one of those really interesting things about that it's like it's really getting crossover appeal, much like the host kind of did, much like movies like Old Boy did. Like it is getting that fever pitch of like it's doing really well in the box office, and it's crazy, and I think it's well deserved. Ever since they won in Cannes, it's well deserved. This is a great movie, and I if you haven't already, again, or you listen to a spoiler cast if you haven't already watched the movie, but if you haven't already, go see it. Go see it.
Yeah.
It's a fucking all these details.
I always tell people, for me, movies are experiences. So even if you tell me the whole plot of a movie, right, you're never going to convey the experience of the actors and the setting and the cinematography and the pacing, right? Like you could just sit down and Petey could have been like, yo, this movie's about this, and then this happens and that happens, and I would have still been interested because I knew who the director was and I know who some of the actors are. And I would be like, oh man, yeah, he's really good. Like the father of the park, like the park father. I know I've seen him in so many Korean things, and I love his voice because his whole voice in this movie. Yeah, it's such a like over the top superhero voice for no reason.
Oh yeah,
but that's just who he is.
Yeah,
and I just
Is all the way back to Coffee Prince. It's always good when I think back to when I get to think back to Coffee Prince.
Like the moments where he's talking to his son on the radio, and he's just like, "Yeah, over," like just over. Over. And it's so deep and raspy, and it's just like there's just me and the boys had a moment where we're just like, I love this man's voice. Can we? Man
has a sexy voice.
Yeah. And yeah, it was just great. Fuck.
Yeah.
All right.
So
we will ramble on and on.
Yeah.
We don't stop ourselves.
Bring it home to us.
If this has made you interested in any kind of Korean media, me and my friend Petey here do a semi-weekly podcast about the culture, music, sound of K-pop. We call that Hallyujuku. And every once in a while, when something special comes along, we do these episodes called Hallyujuku Talks. But make sure you go to kpoppodcast.com to check out all of those things. Especially check out the links to this episode, where you can watch the director and the actor in the Vanity Fair YouTube video, talk more about kind of the in-depth pieces of this movie, just as we did. And just in general, go watch this goddamn movie. Follow us on Twitter. You can follow at Hallyujuku. You can follow us individually. I'm at King Kaz, and PD is at PD Rave. Yeah, please do those things. We will love you more. We will love you every day. Go find a basement to hide in.
Hasta luego. Annyeong.